They called him Kronos, the devourer of his own children, the god who ruled before the gods, the bringer of time, and the end of it. Long before Jupiter, long before the Sky Father claimed the throne, Saturn reigned, and to the ancients, he was not a distant planet. He was the black sun that once ruled the heavens, a god of shadow, of cycles, and of sacrifice. Across the world, his name changed. El, Baal, Enlil, Moloch. But the essence was the same, the old king who would not die. Even now his symbol endures, the black cube, the hexagon storm, the scythe of time that cuts all things down. Some say Saturn was never a planet at all, that he was a throne, a seat of power for those who came before humanity, the ones the Sumerians called the Anunnaki.
And if that's true, then the cult of Saturn never ended. It only learned how to hide in plain sight.
Close in, wrapped in a soft blanket of haze, Saturn is incredibly beautiful. The sheer size of Saturn is difficult for beings from Earth to comprehend, for Saturn is truly gigantic. More than 650 Earths could fit into the volume of the planet. But Saturn, unlike Earth, is made not from rock, but from gas. As this computer-enhanced image shows, Saturn is distinctly oval. The planet is flattened by the speed with which it spins. A Saturnian day is only 10 hours long. Underneath a turbulent atmosphere is an immensely deep ocean of liquid hydrogen. Deep down, it is so compressed that it behaves like a liquid metal. And at the very center is a rocky core, a solid planet rather larger than the Earth, but enveloped in an ocean of liquid gas more than 30,000 miles deep. Saturn's atmosphere is blanketed in a thick layer of smog. The first problem the team needed to solve was how to construct the complicated computer programs that would reveal the detail underneath. They succeeded, and computer-enhanced, a previously unseen Saturn emerged from underneath the haze. The atmosphere is a turbulent place. It is patterned with spots and vortices trailing for tens of thousands of miles. These are the tops of storm clouds racing across the Saturnian sky. The equatorial winds blow at up to 1,000 miles per hour. Girdling the planet are the rings, 38,000 miles across. The names for Saturn's rings were worked out long before any spacecraft got there. They are based on the two most noticeable divisions in the rings, the Cassini division and the boundary with the inner diffuse crepe ring. So in the interest of simplicity, the rings were called A, B, and C for crepe ring. But as the resolution has improved on the rings, the naming has had to be extended and has become absurdly complicated. Everything inside the C ring is the D ring. The very diffuse material outside the A ring that is invisible from Earth is the E or extended ring. While the very small thin ring outside the A ring but inside the E ring became the F ring. But even this complicated scheme underestimates the sheer complexity of Saturn's rings. This actual Voyager image has been computer-enhanced to reveal all the detail in the rings. The structure is enormously complicated. The rings are so full of detail that they have been compared to a gigantic phonograph record. Composed of billions of small, independently orbiting chunks of ice, the entire ring system is almost 40,000 miles across and surprisingly, less than a mile thick. Formed with Saturn more than 4,000 million years ago, the rings are a window into that ancient time when the solar system was born. Over eons, some process seems to have steadily marshaled the myriad swarms of billions upon billions of boulders of ice into the structure the rings now have.
In nearly every culture that left its mark on history, there is a memory of a world that came before this one, a time of peace, abundance, and divine order, what the Greeks called the Golden Age. Among the oldest surviving myths of the Western world is the story of the Titan Kronos, the ruler of time, known to the Romans as Saturnus. He was the ruler of the Golden Age, a time when the earth produced freely and humankind lived without labor or want. There was no need for kings, laws, or weapons. It was an era of balance, the universe in perfect order. But time is a circle, not a line, and every circle contains its own ending. And Kronos was no gentle patriarch. His very name, from the Greek Kronos, means time, and time, no matter how divine, consumes everything it creates. As the myth unfolds, Kronos begins to devour his own children, fearing a prophecy that one of them would overthrow him. This idea, the devourer of his offspring, was not about cannibalism. It was about the nature of time itself. Each generation, each creation, each civilization eventually falls back into the jaws of the cycle that produced it. When the Romans inherited this story, they reimagined Kronos as Saturnus, a god of sowing and harvest. His scythe, once the weapon used to overthrow his father, Uranus, became the farmer's sickle, the instrument of the seasons. Every winter, when the fields died and the light faded, the Romans celebrated Saturnalia, a festival of reversal and renewal. Slaves dined as masters. Masters served as slaves. For 1 week, the world turned upside down, echoing that ancient shift from the Golden Age to the Age of Men. Yet the pattern is not confined to Greece and Rome. Thousands of years earlier, in the river valleys of Sumer and Akkad, we find the same cosmic hierarchy, a ruling father god displaced by his descendants. In these stories, Anu, the lord of the heavens, was succeeded by Enlil, who became the administrator of earth and the firmament. Enlil's own reign would one day give way to the younger, more sympathetic Enki, master of wisdom and creation. The succession of divine generations mirrors the succession of ages, each ruled by a more distant, more human-like deity. The pattern is striking. An elder god presides over paradise. His rule ends abruptly. A younger order takes his place, and the age of peace becomes the age of labor. It is possible the Greeks inherited these patterns indirectly through the Near East. The image of the scythe-wielding sky-father, the fall from paradise, the rebellion of sons against fathers. These are Mesopotamian before they were ever Hellenic. In esoteric philosophy, the archetype of Saturn takes on an even deeper meaning. To the alchemists, Saturn's metal was lead, heavy, dull, and resistant to change. Yet lead was also the starting point of transformation, the base matter that could, through understanding, become gold. In the Kabbalistic tree of life, Saturn corresponds to the third Sephirah, Bina, understanding. Here, Saturn is the architect of limitation, the force that gives form to chaos. Without limitation, creation cannot exist. Without time, nothing can evolve. To the ancients, the Golden Age ended not because of evil, but because perfection cannot endure. Every paradise collapses into experience, and every god of creation becomes a god of death. Kronos, Saturn, Enlil. The names change, but the idea remains. The universe moves in cycles of birth, decay, and renewal. The Father is overthrown by the Son, who in turn becomes the Father, and the wheel of time turns once more. For the ancient Sumerians, the sky was a kingdom. a vast hierarchy ruled by the Anunnaki, the rulers of earth and heaven. And among them stood one who embodied control and the weight of judgment. This was Enlil. In the old tablets, he is called the Great Mountain, commander of the winds, keeper of the tablet of destinies, and enforcer of order in heaven. When humankind becomes too loud, too defiant, it's Enlil who sends the flood. He preserves the balance, even if it means destruction. And in that balance, a familiar symbol, the planet Saturn. To the Babylonians, Saturn became Ninurta, the son of Enlil, a warrior who enforced his father's will. He carried the same traits: severity, discipline, structure, and punishment. To the Phoenicians, it was El, the father of gods and men. In the Levant, the Saturnian cult took a dark turn. The god El, once supreme, gave rise to Baal, the Lord. Over centuries, Baal's identity fractured into many forms: Baal Haman, Baal Zebul, Baal Moloch. Moloch would become one of the most feared names in ancient scripture. He was the devourer, the one who demanded the offering of firstborns to ensure the continuation of power and order. The echoes of this can be seen in the tale of Kronos. This connection would carry forward into countless occult traditions. Saturn, the black sun, the lord of the material world. Moloch, the consuming fire of civilization itself. Different names, same power. The destroyer who maintains creation through sacrifice. Even the ancient Hebrews, who rejected these cults, could never fully erase their imagery. The warnings in Leviticus and Jeremiah against passing children through the fire to Molech are cultural fossils, preserving the memory of Saturn's shadow in human history. In astrology, Saturn still bears that same mark, the planet of limitation, time, and consequence. It is the great divider between the known and the unknown, the last visible boundary of the heavens. Some scholars have wondered if these were all just different incarnations of the same ancient archetype. In the Enuma Elish, it's not hard to see this transformation. The elder gods are cast down, the younger gods rise. The heavens are divided into zones, a cosmic order built from rebellion and sacrifice. Maybe that's why, even now, the ancients' fear of Saturn lingers in our collective memory. Because somewhere deep in the past, Saturn wasn't just a light in the sky. It was the symbol of a god who once ruled the world. The ancients gave Saturn many names: the Lord of Time, the Devourer, the Black Sun. But one symbol followed it through every age: the cube. 6 sides, 6 directions, and a hidden center. It is the geometry of form itself, stable, eternal, and unyielding. And nowhere else in the solar system is that geometry more literal than on Saturn. In 1981, Voyager sent back images that stunned the world. At Saturn's North Pole, a perfect 6-sided storm, a hexagon thousands of miles wide, locked in perpetual rotation. The hexagon is immense, with sides approximately 9,000 miles long, big enough to fit the Earth inside it, twice. Scientists called it a standing wave, a product of turbulent jet streams. But to those who study the symbols of old, it was something else. A signature, a cosmic mark that the architecture of Saturn, and perhaps reality itself, obeys the same hidden geometry found in sacred design. In Kabbalah, Saturn is Bina, understanding. She is the great architect, the feminine aspect that takes the formless light of creation and gives it shape. Bina builds the walls of existence, the boundaries of matter, the rules of time. The ancients saw in Saturn's rings the image of limitation, and in its hexagon, the symbol of structure itself. Saturn does not create life. Saturn defines its limits. The black cube reappears in one of the world's holiest sites, the Kaaba of Mecca. Pilgrims circle it as planets around their star, in a ritual that has echoed for more than 1,000 years. To the esoteric initiate, this is not coincidence. The cube is the dwelling place of divinity, the same pattern repeated from heaven to earth. Saturn rules time, and time devours all. In alchemy, he is Nigredo, the black stage of dissolution, death before rebirth. To enter the cube is to face the limit of existence. To transcend it is to escape time itself. From Masonic temples to city plazas, the black cube persists. Architects, artists, and occultists return to it, consciously or not, as if drawn to an ancient code. Some call it a symbol of control, the prison of the mind, the material world that keeps spirit bound. Others call it the key, the reminder that enlightenment begins with confronting confinement. Some esoteric schools go further. They claim Saturn is not just a symbol of time and death, but a gate. In this view, the hexagon at its pole is not a storm, but a mechanism, a six-sided portal that recycles consciousness back into material form. This is the so-called soul trap theory, the idea that souls are drawn back into the cycle of birth and death through a Saturnian gateway. It appears in fragments of Gnostic texts, in whispers of mystery schools, and in modern fringe philosophy. Whether metaphor or reality, the image of Saturn as a cosmic warden fits the same archetype seen in every age, the devourer of his children, the black cube that both shelters and imprisons. In the Hebrew prophecies, there is a warning about a star. Amos calls it Kayun. Centuries later, when the text travels into Greek, the name shifts to Remphan or Remphan. In the New Testament, Acts 7:43 recalls it as the star of your god Remphan, carried by the people as an idol. What was that star? Ancient readers did not use our modern word planet. They spoke of wandering stars, the bright bodies that move against the fixed constellations. Among them, one was slow, heavy with meaning, and always associated with law, fate, and consequence. That star was Saturn. Many scholars see the line from Kiyun to Remphan or Remphan as a translation trail that points to Saturn. The name likely echoes older Mesopotamian and West Semitic terms for the planet that later survived in regional languages. When Stephen says the people carried the star of your god Remphan, he is not speaking about a distant sun. He is naming a deified planet, a cult of the sky. In Amos 5:26, the prophet also names Moloch. Acts repeats the pairing. The tabernacle of Moloch and the star of your god Remphan. Two currents converge here. Moloch, the consuming fire of the city. Remphan, the Saturnian star of authority and time. Together they mark a forbidden worship, power taken from the heavens and enthroned on earth. Place that warning beside what we see above Saturn today. At the North Pole, a six-sided storm turns without rest, a hexagon vast enough to swallow continents. For the modern eye, it is fluid dynamics. For the symbolic eye, it is geometry. The same six that defines the cube and the star forms used in sacred diagrams. In the old language of myth, Saturn remains the architect of limits. A brief note for clarity. Remphan is not a different god from Kiyun. It is the Greek way of writing the older name, and the star is not a specific drawn emblem in these texts. It is the planet as an idol, a wandering power treated as a god. So the star of Remphan is Saturn remembered in scripture, a planetary throne woven into warning, a reminder that when men worship time and power devour them in return. The Star of Remphan, then, wasn't a symbol of covenant with the divine, but rather devotion to Saturn. Across Babylon, Egypt, and Canaan, Saturn was both revered and feared. The six-pointed star, later became known as the Seal of Solomon, and came to represent this dual nature, divine wisdom bound within the laws of matter. The hexagram, like Saturn itself, governs structure and control. When the modern state of Israel adopted the six-pointed star for its flag, it was not reviving a symbol from the Mosaic Age. The menorah was Israel's ancient emblem, the seven-branched light of spirit. The star emerged much later, shaped through Kabbalistic mysticism, Hermetic alchemy, and even medieval magic. This evolution raises uncomfortable questions. The same hexagram used in occult sigils, Masonic lodges, and Saturnian orders is now the symbol of a modern nation, one deeply entangled in global finance, technology, and surveillance. It may be coincidence, but if symbols carry energy, if they transmit intention across time, then the Star of Remphan never stopped shining. It merely changed meaning. Perhaps that's the hidden irony, that the very symbol raised in the name of faith may, in truth, represent the ancient god of the material veil, the keeper of cycles, the architect of control. The worship of Saturn never truly disappeared. It evolved, hiding behind new symbols, new languages, and new institutions. What began as offerings to a dark god of time became rituals of commerce, architecture, and control. Today, that same energy manifests in systems of finance, technology, and surveillance. The mechanisms that bind humanity to a constant rhythm of consumption and obedience. The black cube, Saturn's ancient symbol, now appears everywhere. At the Kaaba in Mecca, the pilgrims circle the cube, a ritual older than Islam itself, some say echoing pre-Abrahamic veneration of celestial deities. In corporate logos, black cube structures rise in city centers from Manhattan to Melbourne, monuments to the god of material order. Even in names, BlackRock, Blackstone, Saturn Corporation, the pattern repeats. Black, the color of Saturn's domain, the color of the void, of authority, of power, centralized and absolute. In esoteric traditions, the cube represents matter, limitation, and imprisonment, the spirit confined in the density of the material world. To escape the cube is to awaken, to transcend the boundaries of control. But those who rule through the cube feed upon its geometry. They build their empires upon it. Secret societies, occult orders, and global think tanks, whether knowingly or not, operate within the Saturnian paradigm. They uphold the cult of structure, hierarchy, and time. Their temples are skyscrapers, their altars are boardrooms, and their offerings are human attention and labor. We live inside its rings. The cult doesn't wear robes anymore. It wears suits. It doesn't chant in temples. It calculates in markets. It doesn't burn offerings. It monetizes souls. During the early 20th century, esoteric orders within Nazi Germany and Hitler's inner circle revived this symbol as part of their myth of Aryan cosmic origin. The Schwarze Sonne, or Black Sun, represented a hidden source of energy, an unseen god at the center of all reality. A reference to the ancient Saturnian Old Sun of myth that ruled before our present age. After the Third Reich fell, the Black Sun symbolism went underground, finding new life in post-war esoteric societies, occult lodges, and in modern conspiracy theories. Saturn became the shadow sun, a hidden generator behind human consciousness, radiating control. One of the most widely circulated modern interpretations came from David Icke, who described Saturn as a cosmic transmitter, a planetary broadcasting tower beaming frequencies across the solar system. In his view, the moon acts as a relay dish, reflecting those frequencies into Earth and shaping human perception. Whether one takes this literally or symbolically, it shows a far older pattern, the Gnostic model of the archons, where lower celestial rulers project false realities to keep the divine spark imprisoned in matter. Saturn, the lord of time and the keeper of the cage. Many ancient traditions spoke of two suns, one visible, one hidden. This hidden sun was Saturn. The visible sun became the successor, the liberator. The black cube is Saturn's ultimate symbol. Matter crystallized, time solidified into geometry. Across the world, this geometry recurs. Yet the cube's ultimate secret is its transformation. When unfolded, it becomes the cross, the central symbol of Christianity. This raises another unsettling question. Did the Church absorb the Saturnian code? Saturday, Saturn's day, became the sacred Sabbath. St. Peter, Petros, the rock, the stone upon which the church was built, and the cross itself, an unfolded cube meant to symbolize the release of the divine from material bondage. It's as if Christianity took the architecture of Saturn and simply reversed it, turning the symbol of imprisonment into a symbol of redemption. As we enter the new age of the black sun, the symbolism circles back. Humanity builds its own artificial suns, glowing screens, simulated light, time measured in loops. Through transhumanism, people chase Saturn's oldest promise, immortality through control of time. Machines compress reality, just as the cube once did. The ancient god of limits now reappears in silicon form, the demiurge reborn as an algorithm. The question that still lingers is not whether Saturn still rules, but whether we've begun to recreate his kingdom ourselves. Are we still living in the reign of the black sun? Perhaps Saturn never fell. We just learned how to build his shadow.
The black cube, the ringed planet, the god who devours his own. We worship him without knowing it.
We serve order without question. And every tick of the clock still whispers the same ancient name.
Join us next time on The Anunnaki Connection.